I'm Sean. I'm part of CoinFlask. I do crypto accounting and taxes. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out afterwards. And now let's talk about Crypto Mondays. I know the last time some of you guys were here was a year and a half, almost 2 years ago. So now we're bringing it back and, just be surrounded by like-minded people who are interested in Web3, crypto, NFTs, whether you're new or experienced in the space. This event is geared towards everyone to not only educate you, but also, see what your insights are. Maybe you have a particular interest in the space and you have questions, so feel free to network at the end too with anyone you meet, just to kind of grow your network in the Web3 space. With that said, we have two incredible speakers tonight. Well, I think Mike's going to be speaking. Are you going to be speaking? No. Okay, so we have one incredible speaker tonight. Most of you know Matt Rosen. He's CEO of Splinterlands, which is a Web3 card trading game. I was going to say company, but game sounds much better. So without further ado, let's have a round of applause for Matt, and he's going to take it over from here. And if you have any questions, ask. There you go. Just clip it on anywhere.
1 second.
I think it's good.
All right. Should work. All right. Hey, everyone. Really excited to be restarting Crypto Mondays Philly. We are super fortunate to have Lou here, who is the founder of Crypto Mondays, which has how many chapters are there? 57 different Crypto Mondays chapters around the world. So really good to have that back in Philly, because I would really feel left out if my home city did not have one of the 57 chapters. So I'm going to skip the introduction part, because I'm pretty sure every one of you knows me pretty well. But yeah, you can follow me on Twitter. I don't really post very much, but I should start doing that. I always tell myself. Anyway, so a lot of times at these events, people talk about the really cool projects they're doing, or we talk about what's going on in, there's meme coins and there's L2s and there's restaking protocols and probably a whole sort of other things that I don't even know what they are. So I kind of wanted to take a step back and talk about kind of like the importance of cryptocurrency and decentralized finance in general, like why we're all here, what is the point of all this and all these cool things that that other people are building and talking about in this space. Because to me, that's really that's the most important thing. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm doing what I do. That's why my whole life is about this space. As it says on the screen here, it's a complete revolution in money, property rights, and freedom, which are pretty much the core tenets of our society in general. So this is not some fringe thing. It is extremely important what's going on. And I think everyone here knows that to some degree, and it's good to understand it as much as possible. I don't have a specific talk planned, but I have general stories and anecdotes and kind of what I've learned over the years, with a bunch of quotes from movies or TV shows or things that go along with it. So the first one, often quoted in this space, is The Matrix. And this sums up a lot of how I myself have felt in the past, especially after 2008 and the financial crisis, because it was the first time in my life that the kind of sort of messed up state of the world directly affected me. And I had no understanding of money, of finance, of the Federal Reserve, of any of this stuff. I kind of did what I was supposed to do in life and had my job and, went on completely ignorant of all these things. And then things like, the financial crash sort of hit you in the face, and I didn't really understand any of it. So I had this feeling like Neo, there's something wrong, and I don't know what it is, but I know it's out there. And it sort of led me to try to look into it. And the second thing, I had this feeling I was sort of stuck. Like I did all the things I was supposed to do. I went to college, I got a job, I got married, I followed the normal path. But I wasn't getting ahead. I wasn't even necessarily like staying in place. It seemed like a struggle, which I'm coming to learn is a common theme for people in the world. And I knew like they said, Thomas Mikowski there, like there are people in this world that don't have to put up with this shit. And like, how do I be one of those people? And it's not just like, oh, buy Bitcoin and then you don't have to put up with this shit. Although I do believe that is probably the case. But if you just do that and you don't really understand why or what you're doing, it's not going to work. Because a lot of people have said like, oh, we bought Bitcoin at $1 and then they sold it all, at $3 or whatever it is. If you don't really understand like what it is behind these things that make them so important, you're not going to be able to benefit from it. So to me, it really came down to education. I think that's like the whole idea of Crypto Mondays and meetups and all these things. It's about educating people. It's about letting people know like what is going on in the world and why cryptocurrency is one potential tool that lets you kind of get ahead or solve some of these problems that you face. And the biggest thing to me also, once I realized like, oh, I need to learn about this stuff. It like hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, I don't know what the hell is going on with money in the world, and that's a problem. And then I was like, well, why did I never learn about this? Why did I learn about all these weird subjects in school and not once I learned anything about money or finance or what the Federal Reserve does? Like something that's so fundamental to our daily lives, we don't learn about, but we make sure to read like Edgar Allan Poe, very good author, but like has not been important in my life at all. But like money that I use every day, nope, that was not there. And at first I was just like, oh, that's weird. They must have forgot about that. But I've come to learn that I think that's definitely on purpose. And this is a quote that's attributed to Henry Ford. I'm not gonna assume that it's 100% that he said this, but it's generally associated with him. But it's well enough that people of the nation do not understand our banking and monetary system, because if they did, I believe there'd be a revolution before tomorrow morning. And again, the more I learn about this, the more I think it's true, because like once you start learning about this stuff, you're like, what the actual shit is going on? And it's really like, it's really frustrating. It's really angering.
I can say I agree. You're an asshole. So is John D. Rockefeller. He was another asshole.
There you go. I don't think I have any quotes from him in here. But yeah, I mean, I think it's on purpose that people are not taught about money and the banking system, because once you learn about it, you realize the whole system is basically designed to screw most people over and to control most people. It's like the government's #1 tool of control. And so it's very important that people don't realize that. So this, we're going to a section without funny quotes, so I apologize for that. But so the first thing for me to learn was like, okay, what is money? Like I can't learn about finance or Federal Reserve or any of this stuff if I don't understand what money is. And I think most people in the world have no idea really what money is. They'll tell you, oh, there's bank accounts and I have a balance and I can pay people and there's bills and things. But then when you get into it really, like one thing that was kind of surprising to me when you think about it is that money is a completely man-made thing. It's not like part of the universe, like matter and energy and any of that. Like people just made it up. So there's no like right way to do money. There's better ways and there's worse ways, but it's really just this sort of like general agreement among people. Lou and I were talking earlier. It's a meme, right? It's just what everyone together decides is how they want to transact. And money, the goal of money is basically to store and represent your time and your energy. So I spend a bunch of time and energy and I make something, or I labor to do something. I exchange it for money, and then I know I can take that money and exchange it for someone else's time and labor later, right? So I can have someone cook food for me at a restaurant. I can have someone build something for me or program something for me or whatever. So money is just a way for you to take your time and labor that you spend and sort of like save it up, so you can use it later when you need it. That's really all it is. And then there's various different ways that money has evolved over time for this function of just like storing up your time and labor. And one thing that I noticed and that sort of stuck out to me in this little chart here, is how like each iteration of money kind of like increased how much the government could control about it. So, you know, when you had barter or gold bars, like the government really doesn't control anything about that. If I have a cow and I want to trade it to you for something, like the government has no, you know, bearing on that at all. I can just do it, and you know, they don't have to know about it. They don't print cows or anything like that. Same with gold bars. But then even when it got to coins, now all of a sudden the government is minting these coins. So they have this little step in there where they start to control it a little. And there's been examples all throughout history, like in the Roman Empire, things when governments need more money, all of a sudden the gold coins are just like a little bit smaller. They don't all contain gold, or things that like people don't notice, but allows the government to make more coins with less gold, right? So all of a sudden they're like inserting themselves into this thing that really doesn't require any government intervention. And then as you get to paper money, the idea was there's a bunch of gold in Fort Knox, but they just print these bills for you. But like you have no way to tell any of that or get that gold. And, you know, obviously the government just printed way more bills than they had gold. So they, you know, even more so are able to control the entire supply of money. And then once we get to digital money and credit cards, they just have complete control over everything. You know, even with paper money, they can't stop me from making a transaction. I go to a store with a $20 bill, I pay someone for something, like the government doesn't insert themselves in that. But now with a credit card, it has to be approved, right, by my bank. Any electronic payment has to be approved. You know, they could even, with a stroke of a key on a keyboard, they can freeze your account. They can take your money. They at this point, they completely control the entire process. And that's a huge problem in the sense that that's the way that the government is able to control and often oppress the people that live in the society is through what's happened with money. And so that's where cryptocurrency comes in, because now for the first time we have this electronic money. We all want electronic money because we live in a digital world, and we need to be able to buy things overseas and online and whatever. But now we can have electronic money that works more like you know, the old forms of money, the physical forms of money, where the government is not inserting themselves. That I can send cryptocurrency to someone, and no one can stop that. No one has to approve that transaction. No one can take it from me, etc. And here, you know, these aren't even new concepts. Way before cryptocurrency in 1802, again, according to the website that I downloaded this image from, you know, Thomas Jefferson said he believes that banking institutions are more dangerous to our liberties than armies. And if banks control the issue of currency, then by inflation and deflation, the banks and corporations will basically steal all property from the populace. And you know, some people might say, well, you know, private banks don't control the money. You know, it's the U.S. government. But really, the Federal Reserve is a consortium of private banks, and while they're supposed to be independent from the government, that is not really the case anymore. So, literally, what Thomas Jefferson is warning us about hundreds of years ago is happening now. And the way they do this is through inflation. When the government prints money, since we talked about like money is basically this store of your effort, your time, and your value, when the government prints more of it, it just devalues your time and effort. So they take the time and effort from everybody and give it to themselves. And it's interesting because historically, when sound money was used, like gold and silver and things the government couldn't print, if the government wanted to go to war or something like that, needed money, they had to either raise taxes or sell bonds, which is borrowing money from people. So it gave people power because people could, you know, at least in democracies, elect different people in government if they don't want to pay taxes for this war, or they could just not buy the bonds if they don't support the war. And so it made it difficult for governments, as it should be. Like the people had to really support whatever the government wanted to do if the government was able to fund it. But what happened with inflation and fiat currency is that the government sort of found a loophole. They're like, well, if we can just print more money, then we can just fund whatever we want, and people sort of won't really notice what's going on. And then you have things like, the Afghanistan war, which I don't think people in America generally supported, but they didn't even really know about it. Like if the government came out and said, we have to raise taxes on everybody, or you all have to go buy these bonds so we can spend trillions of dollars doing literally nothing in Afghanistan, I don't think that would have gone over well. But instead, they just print money. And it's sort of like the proverbial boiling frog. Like if you have a frog in water and the water slowly gets hotter, it doesn't even realize it's being boiled. Like it's the same thing with inflation. People, it's not like money is going out of their bank account. And like they don't realize things are being stolen from them. So it's a way the governments have been able to manipulate the money supply in order to effectively steal from the population to do whatever typically horrible things that governments do. And this is, just basically a similar concept from Meyer Rothschild of the Rothschild dynasty, who are typically said to be, kind of in control of the world's money supplies, is let me issue and control a nation's money and I care not who writes the laws. And it's explaining that like, controlling the money is more important for controlling people than even the laws of the state. I mean, that's how important money is, and that's why it's so bad that most people in the world don't understand it and don't realize what's going on. So one thing I was sort of like jumping to a different topic but related is I also want to talk about DAOs, which are decentralized autonomous organizations, because this is another way. DAOs are a way to stop governments also from being able to control enterprise, companies, and corporations, and same thing through control of the money. So if you think about every company in the world or organization, they have to use money. They pay people, they get paid, get donations, whatever it is. You have to use money to basically do anything. And in order to use money, you have to have a bank account. And in order to have a bank account, you have to have a legal entity registered in some jurisdiction somewhere around the world. So that's the choke point. That's the thing right there, that you have to have a bank account to use money that lets the government control every single company. Because if a company, doesn't pay their taxes, or a company, just does anything that a government doesn't like, they can shut down their bank account, and then that corporation cannot operate anymore. So they basically have the shut-off switch for every company or organization in the entire world. And this may be an organization in China that's trying to fight an oppressive government or something like that. Whatever it is, whether it's right or wrong, moral or immoral, no matter what, the governments have this, their foot on the neck of every single company or corporation. I mean, working at Splinterlands is my company. We're on our third bank because, and anyone who has a crypto company probably has a similar story, is literally called Operation Choke Point, where even though we're not doing anything illegal, the current administration doesn't like the crypto industry, the industry that we're in. So they put pressure on banks behind the scenes to not work with us. And we've had 2 banks already that just out of the blue kind of realize that we're in the crypto industry. Don't ask any questions, just do, your account's done, just like that. So this is something that happens even in the US. It's not just like a third world country thing. And so what crypto allows is it takes away that choke point, because now with crypto, you can run a company without a bank account. You can receive money, you can pay people, you can do everything that you could otherwise do with dollars, but you don't need a bank account. And so that means you don't have to have a legal entity registered in any jurisdiction around the world. So that means you don't pay taxes because you're not a company registered anywhere. You're not in any jurisdiction to pay taxes to. You can't be sued. You don't have to hire lawyers. You don't have to hire accountants. You don't have to hire HR people. And if you think about it, no offense to any of those people, but all of the money and time and resources spent on those things, they don't go to building products and services for people. It's a waste. It's a bureaucratic waste. So now, thanks to cryptocurrency, you can operate a company and you don't need any of those things. All of your resources can go just to whatever product or service you're making for people. And it takes away the ability for governments to shut down companies they don't like for whatever reason. So they can go after individual people, but since the company can operate without a bank account, the government can't actually shut it down. If certain people, are no longer working with it, other people anonymously around the world can contribute, and they can continue to receive money and spend money and do everything they need to do. And the government has no control over any of that. They can't stop it, versus being able to just say, here's the legal entity associated with your bank account. You can't use money anymore. And they shut down companies that way. So to me, like these decentralized organizations are going to be the future. And when it comes down to a situation where there's one company that has to pay taxes, get sued, hire lawyers, all these things, spend all these resources on this, and another similar company that doesn't have to do all of that and puts all their resources into their product, all else being equal, the DAO is going to win. And that's, to me, as someone also who's currently trying to run a company in the US and dealing with all this stuff on a daily basis, like that's one of the most exciting things that cryptocurrency allows and unlocks. One more quote, and this is the end. But Friedrich Hayek is a famous Austrian economist. The School of Austrian Economics is, basically the opposite of the School of Economics that's being used in most countries around the world today. That promote hard money like gold or Bitcoin versus fiat money. And he said, I don't know what year this was, but I believe it was well before Bitcoin was invented, that we will never have a good money again until we take it out of the hands of the government. And the only way that we can do that is by some sly, roundabout way where we make something that they just can't stop. And that's literally what Bitcoin and cryptocurrency is. And the cool thing about it is, like, historically, to try to take something from a government, something so fundamental as the ability to control money away from the government, has required basically a revolution and a war. But one of the coolest things about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency is, like he says, it's like this sly, roundabout way of peacefully kind of taking back this like really key piece of infrastructure and giving it back to the people in just a way that the government can't do anything about. And my hope is that this continues to be a peaceful transition where we kind of slowly, behind their backs, just take back control of money and sort of take all this power and control away from world governments. So that is my sort of story and overview of why I think this is just so important, what we're doing here. And hopefully, we all, when we're getting caught up in the latest meme coins or, scams or rug pulls or whatever you hear about in the news, I think it's important to take a step back every once in a while and really remember the real revolution that's happening and why this is so important. So thank you, everyone. Appreciate you coming out. I guess, should we do questions for a little bit and then? Yeah. Shoot.
Hey, I guess the question I had is, are you aware of any, for the large DAO companies, for the largest ones, is there anybody that's trying to pull more people in?
There are a whole lot of DAOs out there. I don't know off the top of my head who are the largest. Lou, I don't know if you know.
I would say Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, right, Bitcoin itself is a decentralized organization.
I met a company that's actually trying to help, people get their dreams, their ideas, meet these people.
A DAO to help DAOs?
Yeah.
I don't know of a DAO to help DAOs. That might be a good.
That's what the collective is.
Yeah, so Lou, I'll give a shout out to Lou's, has a group called the Crypto Oracle Collective, which helps, has a big group of experts in all different fields related to this, and helps people, whether it's create DAOs or launch tokens or anything. That's a great resource. So yeah, but as far as, there's like not a million, but a lot of different DAOs. Bitcoin is one. The Hive blockchain is one that our game is built on, is also a DAO. like completely a DAO. A lot of people do like what I call sort of DAOs, where they say they're a DAO, but they still register as a legal entity somewhere, which to me kind of like defeats the purpose. Yeah, there are definitely a number of organizations. MakerDAO is one that I personally use and have been involved in. That issues a stable-coin token, for example. So there are quite a number of them.
What are your thoughts on some like the governmental efforts to kind of like get the same capability of trying to stop people from getting access to exchanges and like know your customer and like how you have to use your ID? What are your thoughts on that? And
Yeah, well, I think at least to date, governments have fought this as hard as they could, which makes sense. Hopefully that doesn't continue, but my guess is it probably will. And the only thing they're able to control is the fiat currency side. So if you want to put your fiat currency into crypto, like again, they control everything about fiat currency. So that's again, they have a chokehold on that, and they've been doing what they can to use it, and I expect they're going to continue to do that. But that's why it's important, I think, for everybody to get some crypto and hold it themselves in their own wallets. Because if you hold it in Coinbase or a company that's registered in the US or somewhere, then it's basically no different than holding dollars effectively, other than like price exposure. But if you're interested in really, controlling your own assets and the freedom aspect of it, you want to hold it in your own self-custodial wallet. And you want to get some before the exits are closed, because one of the things that I've also learned is when like shit goes down in countries, let's say Afghanistan or wherever, like one of the first things the governments do is they like shut down the banks. You always see these big long lines at like ATMs and like people like trying to break into banks. Like so, you could have $10 million in the bank there, but if some country invades or whatever happens. They can just say, nope, shut down. So yeah, I'd say that's probably going to happen more and more so. There's nothing you can do about that part. They control the fiat currency. That's why you want to, I try to encourage everyone to get into crypto, get some, because once you have it and you hold it, then they can't control that anymore. All right, if that's it for questions, I think we have some other people that. Or one more question. Yeah. What is and or is not a DAO? My definition. I mean, to me, it's like just an organization that doesn't have a legal entity registered. It's just an organization of people working together around the world without, being part of the administrative state. So, there's no one to sue. How can you sue a collection of random anonymous people around the world? Yeah, they might sue. They'll probably sue individual people, but that doesn't stop. Usually, a lawsuit is to stop a company from doing something, right? So if you sue some individual people, that doesn't stop. That you can't stop that company from doing something, because ultimately, all the power of everything, like lawsuits, and if you get sued and you lose, and let's say you don't comply, then it's up to the government. Basically, they can shut down your bank account. That's where it all comes down to. So there's no. It was interesting because actually the Hive blockchain was a fork of another blockchain, and when it was originally forked, there was apparently a mining company or something called Hive Blockchain, and they put out a press release that they were going to sue the new Hive blockchain that we created for copyright infringement on the name. And we were all very curious who they were going to sue. And I guess all they could do was put out a press release saying they were upset about it. Because it's like, how could you sue Bitcoin, right? You can't. You could maybe sue a Bitcoin developer or something, but that doesn't stop anything that's happening in Bitcoin. Makes sense. All right. Final question.
So recently I heard Bitcoin miners, and it's getting too expensive to mine Bitcoin. Sometimes they have to turn off. In the future, could this get even
Well, so it's important to understand that like it's a function of how many people are mining Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin's difficulty to mine automatically adjusts roughly every 2 weeks. So if Bitcoin becomes unprofitable to mine for certain people, they stop mining. Then actually it gets easier to mine automatically. So it's a self-adjusting system that so far has worked very well over the last 15 years. All right, I said we're going to cut off questions there. I'll turn it over to Sean.